Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Living in the West, a series of episodes where we look into the lives of the Muslims living in the West, what their vision should be, are they allowed to stay in the West, how they should implement themselves in the West, their political thought while being in the West. I have with me today Sheikh Huda al-Haddad from the MRDF, which is a Muslim Research and Development Foundation in London, in the United Kingdom. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, we could start off speaking about a certain topic that we touched upon in a previous episode. We spoke about the classifications of Dar al-Islam and Dar al-Kufr, the land of the Muslims and the land of the non-Muslims. And then we spoke about the segment itself called Dar al-Harb and Dar al-Ahad, which is inside Dar al-Kufr, which is the land of war and the land of an agreement. This land of agreement you spoke about, you said that the citizens, the Muslim citizens of this land, they enter into an agreement or an understanding by the definition of the people who have invited them. So the people who live in a country, who see these Muslims, they accept these people as being people who are righteous people, people who are not treacherous, people who are not fighting against them. So they have this classification. This is all good and well, but some people may say to you, Sheikh, how do we uphold these so-called tacit, implied conditions upon us when we as Muslims are not constrained by boundaries? We are one ummah. Our ummah is attacked in one place by maybe the country we're living in. It's attacked in another place by a joint country which they have an agreement with. How do we answer our brothers and sisters when it comes to this?
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wal mursaleen nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. First of all, we said we should differentiate between the government and the people. And this differentiation is very, very important.
And why so?
Because now, many people don't accept what the government is doing. This is one thing. You know, many people are marching against wars in Iraq and Palestine, etc. And we have seen, this caravan that has been launched by some British people.
Viva Palestina.
Yeah, okay, leaving to Palestine by cars, and there more than 30 trucks are moving from the parliament in in London, etc. And we have seen many people in France, for example, millions of people marched against war in Gaza, etc. So the people might not accept what the government is doing. This is one thing. The other thing is, if you are living among the people, the social contract that we have mentioned, okay, is manifested clearly between the individuals and the other individual citizens. So the other citizens, your neighbor is a non-Muslim. How does he look at you? Does he look at you as treacherous? No, he doesn't look you. He looks at you as a citizen. He might disagree with you. He might even hate you, but he looks at you as a citizen that you are not going to carry, for example, burglary against him. You are not going to kill his children. He's not looking at you as this. So this is the social contract. You cannot break that social contract because it has been perceived as such. Now, if you want to say, but we are one body, and because there are implications, we Muslims, okay, have been attacked in some places, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Palestine, and what is our duty? We don't want to talk about the duties. Yes, there are many duties that you have to perform for those Muslims, but this doesn't mean that you can break that social contract between you and the other people. If a Muslim, if you might say, but the country that I might be living in, or that I might hold its citizenship, might be the country that has attacked my Muslim brothers and sisters in Iraq. And I want to join those Muslims, okay, and defend the Muslims in these countries. We say, in the Quran, because the Quran, the Sunnah, and the Islamic scholars have not left anything. In the Quran, فَإِمَّا تَخَافَنَّ مِنْ قَوْمٍ خِيَانَةً فَانْبِذْ إِلَيْهِمْ عَلَى سَوَاءٍ. Means if you want to break the contract between you and any country or any people, okay, whom you are in a state of war with, فَانْبِذْ إِلَيْهِمْ عَلَى سَوَاءٍ. Make it clear for them that you are not anymore in that agreement with them. Okay? Once you make it, then it is up to you to do what you...
But this is practical, Sheikh? Can that practically be done?
Yes, it can be practical. It can be practical. And that's why we tell many young people that you went wrong here. Okay? If they say they are insisting that we have to defend, we say yes, we have to defend them. Okay? But don't defend them in a way that you break this social agreement between you and the people. If you are insisting in doing this, then, okay, at least follow the Quranic methodology. فَانْبِذْ إِلَيْهِمْ عَلَى سَوَاءٍ. Make it clear that you are not anymore a citizen of that country, and you are not anymore in kind of agreement with this country or with the inhabitants of this country, and then it is up to you, because you are not bound with any country, and you bear the consequences of what you do. Anyway, this is the summary of this critical issue, and it has to be understood carefully, because if we don't understand it from all angles, then we are falling into troubles. And let us also remember what we have mentioned earlier, that no Muslim should claim that he is the representative of all Muslims. So no Muslim should take it upon his shoulders to carry out things that may harm other Muslims, claiming that he is in charge of the Muslims. Okay, this is a very critical issue in terms of how Muslim deals with the non-Muslims around him, with the non-Islamic countries around him in the current context.
Okay, now this is quite clear now, you've made it clear, but one point, or a very long point, shall we say, is that because of this classification itself, many people, and these are new terms have come up from certain people and certain scholars, if we can call them scholars, certain thinkers, because of this classification of Dar Harb and Dar Ahad and also what we can call it Dar Kufr, we have new classifications like Dar Dawa or Shahada, for example. Why are these classifications not used instead? You gave a reason before, because they don't have a legacy maybe, but shouldn't these be used in terms of at least giving a broad understanding to what's happening?
Okay. These classifications, see, the problem of these classifications that they are not coming from usuli people. Okay?
Explain what you mean by this.
From people who have knowledge in usul al-fiqh. That's why you will find so many flaws in these classifications. First of all, just in a very simple, unacademic way, you can say that, but is there any contradiction between Dar al-Ahd, Dar al-Da'wah, Dar al-Shahada, and Dar al-Islam and Dar al-Kufr?
Well, let's get some... What do you mean
For example, a Dar al-Kufr is Dar al-Shahada and Dar al-Da'wah. There is no contradiction, so you cannot use this classification, Dar al-Da'wah or Dar al-Shahada, the land of testimony, is as a replacement for the classification of Dar al-Kufr. Why is that? Okay? Why is that? Because ad-da'wah is obligatory upon you, whether you are living in Dar al-Islam or whether you are living in Dar al-Kufr. So even if you are in Dar al-Kufr, it is Dar al-Kufr and Dar al-Da'wah. It is Dar al-Kufr and the land of testimony, because Allah Jalla wa Ala made us the shuhada. لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. So we are shuhada ala الناس, whether we are living in Dar al-Islam or whether we are living in Dar al-Kufr. So there is no contradiction. And why is this flaws taking place? Because the criteria or the criteria of classification is not one. What do I mean by that? From just a rational point of view, once we want to classify the human being, we say a human being is either male or female. Yeah? Can we say a human being is either male, female, or long?
No.
Why?
Because this is an attribute of the both of them. Because both of them
exactly,
yeah.
of both of them. So he is a male, and he might be long or short. She is a female, and she might be long or short. The main thing is that a classification criteria is not the same. You are classifying the human being into a male and a female based on the gender.
Yes. Something which is a unique and clear definition.
Exactly. But you are not classifying the male or the female to tall and short, based on gender. You are classifying it based on height.
So you're saying basically that these terminologies are synonymous sometimes. Not synonymous, but they don't negate the previous.
Exactly. They don't negate. They don't contradict. Because the criteria of classification is not the same. Therefore, you cannot say that Dar al-Shahada, Dar al-Da'wah is a replacement for the old classification. And this is where those people went wrong. And as we say in general, Allah Jalla wa Ala says in the Quran, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا لتكونوا شهداء على الناس ويكون الرسول عليكم شهيدا. تكونوا شهداء على الناس, or to enjoin the good and forbid the evil, wherever you are, wherever the Muslims or wherever the people are living. So still Dar al-Islam is considered to be Dar al-Da'wah, because you give da'wah to Muslims. Dar al-Islam is Dar al-Shahada, because تكونوا شهداء على الناس, even in Dar al-Islam, because we are the witnesses that we have given those Muslims living in this Muslim country da'wah, and we are witnesses that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam legacy and the Quran have reached us.
If we can finish, because we're going to go to a break, but so if I can make a statement to say that these definitions that were given by previous scholars, a fiqh of the past, that have been used throughout times, these are quite comprehensive. But we do accept new definitions if they show a clear definition. Otherwise, we accept them to be part, like you said, a da'wah is part of both these definitions. But the question we're going to start maybe in the second part is, why are we seeing these new definitions trying to take over totally? This is a question we'll start. We'll leave it there. We'll take a short break and inshallah return in a couple of minutes. Please stay with us in Living in the West.
Back to the Prophet. Join Sheikh Amar in the program Back to the Prophet, wherein he teaches us practical lessons from the Prophet's life and how this can help us to overcome our challenges in the present.
We talk about the life example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, seeking guidance for ourselves. In the early days after the revelation of the Holy Quran, the Muslims were greatly persecuted, so much so that quite a few Muslims had to leave Arabia and migrate to Africa to live among Ahl Kitab, Christian people who followed the gospel of Christ.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Living in the West. Sheikh, just before the break there, we've given a comprehensive understanding of these terminologies. I did leave with one question, and this is the question I want to start with. These terminologies like Dar al-Da'wah or Shahada, these newer terminologies to describe Dar al-Islam, Dar al-Kufr, Dar al-Harb, and so forth, why are we seeing these definitions come about now, knowing that we've had definitions for a long time? And the second question is, what's the harm really in these definitions, especially if they're going to maybe strengthen our position, explain our position to the West?
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wal mursaleen nabiyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. I think these definitions have started to emerge in this current discourse because maybe they are considered to be a little bit soft, okay? And the terminology of Dar al-Kufr and Dar al-Harb are really hard terminologies. Maybe you can look at it from this perspective.
You mean something which is shows a lighter side of Islam, maybe not a very harsh, rough kind of Islam?
Yeah, maybe that is the reason behind it. Maybe there is another motivation, that it is motivated by the current world order, okay? But here, if we say that there is now an organization called United Nations, and this organization is taking care of the the situation of the Muslim and non-Muslim countries, whether we accept this organization and what this organization is doing or not, we should, even if we do not accept it, but the way to deal, even if we accept fully what this organization is proposing and the new agreements between non-Muslim countries and Muslim countries, this acceptance should not negate the original principle. Because let us imagine that this world order is a temporary one. Mm-hmm. We don't know. Who knows that whether this will continue or not? Before the establishment of the United Nations, before the Second World War, the world was following another order, okay? Maybe it was a chaotic order, okay?
Imperialism was one of the orders.
Imperialism, etc. Mm-hmm. So can we say that during that term, that period, we should have invented a new terminology to suit that period? No. We might say that, yes, we could have invented a new terminology, or we might have come up with a ijtihad for that period only, provided we should not negate or discard our legacy. Similarly, when we talk about the contemporary situation, we should look at it from this perspective, because this is something very dangerous. We should not change our religion, we should not change our legacy because of the contemporary situation that we are going through, because this contemporary situation is evolving and keep changing. There is a dynamic in it. We should not change our Islam accordingly.
Okay, so there's a dynamic in it, but some people may say to you, well, Islam has the ability to adapt, it says in all times. Isn't this adapting?
See, we don't want to get into this discussion. This terminology, or this notion that Islam has the flexibility and dynamic to adapt.
This is the
okay, mm-hmm. with different situations. We touched on this in the early episodes, and we said that no, this is not an accurate statement, because Islam, yes, there is a flexible part of Islam to adopt these changes, but there are some fixed parts and principles within the Islamic framework that cannot be changed. And those fixed terminology, fixed parts of Al-Islam, or fixed values, Al-Islam is calling any change to be changed according to these values, according to those thawabit, fixed values. Mm-hmm. So, and this is one of the main differences between Al-Islam and any other system. Any other system revolves according to the changes that...
Societal changes.
Societal changes.
Yes.
But Islam doesn't change. Islam is saying that if these changes can take place in the society, then why don't you change to Islam? Mm-hmm. Did you get this point? Mm-hmm. If these things can change, can evolve, can take another form, then why don't you change these circumstances to become Islamic circumstances? And this is the beauty of Islam. So we have fixed values. Those values are not anymore virtues. They are values. Solid, fixed values. And in order to deal with the daily routine or with the day-to-day changes, there are some aspects of Islam that are flexible enough to accommodate these changes.
Okay, so to wrap up this, these episodes of terminologies, that's what we're looking at. How important is it that the Muslim, the lay Muslim, the person like myself, the person who's watching this show, adheres to the understandings of these terminologies?
That is a very good point. Remember that in these episodes, we are trying to discuss these things a little bit deeply, okay? Because we want to elevate the level of some people, and there are some academics watching this, okay, or will be watching these episodes, and we have to have a discourse that is little bit deep and little bit academic. Now, for the lay people, yes, I agree with you. But for the lay people, we have to look at their vision, at what they want to do. So it might be good for them to know that there is a discussion about these terminologies, and the most important thing is the outcome that we have concluded before, is that the lay person living in a non-Muslim country, okay, if he heard that this non-Muslim country is considered to be Dar al-Harb, and he is in a state of war with this country because this country waged war against his brothers and sisters in Iraq or in Palestine, he has to understand that, no, it is not as simple as that. It is much deeper than that. And he has to understand that there is a social contract between him and the other people, the other citizens he is living with. Okay? That conclusion is the most important conclusion for a lay person. For some other reasons, or for some other aims, what do we want to achieve on a societal level, from an academic point of view, this discussion is important. And this discussion is not really needed by the lay person. So here we are trying to cover, and we are trying to cater for the academic people or the strategy-making people, the policy-making Muslims, okay, living in the West, and the leaders of Muslims in the West, and the lay people as well. And remember that in many circumstances, we said that we cannot come up with an answer. Some of those questions are quite difficult and deep, and they need deep researches. They need collective ijtihad carried out by fiqh, by council fiqh, or fiqh of councils in different places, like the fiqh council in Mecca, and the fiqh council in Jeddah, and the fiqh council in India, and etc. They are the people qualified to come up with answers for some of the questions that we have highlighted before.
Okay, and so this is quite clear now to the lay person. This is the attitude he should have. But very quickly, because we are running out of time, but the issue that seems to be at hand for many of these lay people is that, and we discussed it before, but we're going to have to touch upon it because it's so prevalent now, is that many people are turning up and giving these new explanations and reinventing certain things because of the need for answers sometimes. The lay person doesn't find the answers sometimes, so we find, I don't like calling them scholars, but thinkers who come up from the blue with these new definitions which seem very acceptable. How should they see these people? And this is a very important topic in terms of being steadfast on what they believe, Sheikh.
Yes. We say that simply anything that have not been stated in the Quran, Sunnah, and the Islamic legacy, the Islamic heritage, then you should be careful before adopting it. Okay? This is in general. And if there is something that have been well established in Quran, Sunnah, and in our Islamic legacy, then, okay, you can take that and you can be firm on it. That is for lay people, because sometimes they are unable to differentiate. Now, if they say, well, we don't know whether this is a matter of consensus, is it a matter that has been well established in the Quran and Sunnah, we say, if you are doubting this, just leave the matter and go back to what have been established in Quran, Sunnah, and in our Islamic heritage. Just go back, stick to it. And yes, for some lay people, these things are not really needed, because they have different issues to worry about. But it is good for the Muslim discourse to be aware of the underlying discussion behind those terminologies that have been...
and it's not as very simple, like you said. We shouldn't tell our brothers to see it as a black and white issue. There's more complications to it as well.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that might be a good conclusion for this discussion.
Jazakallah Sheikh Haytham Al-Haddad. That's Sheikh Haytham Al-Haddad from the Muslim Research and Development Foundation in the UK, an organisation and a think tank which looks into solutions for Muslims living in the West. We too are looking for solutions for you and our brothers and sisters who live in the West and those who are living in the East. Until next time, I leave you with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.